Okay, let's talk about physical security. An example threat is files and data on a lost computer. And some of your tools against that is to make sure that computer is actually joined to a domain or to Microsoft 365, where it can be sometimes located, but remote wiped and remote locked, where you can't really you have, if someone's going to try to brute force their way in the normal way, they have to go through the connected authentication processes. You can see that there's failed attempts, and it can be remotely managed. And then another tool is Bitlocker. If they just take the hard drive out of that computer and connect it to an external dock or external cable, if the drive is encrypted with Bitlocker, that's a defense against that type of threat. If the hard drive is not encrypted, then they're going to get all your files. And with Dropbox and OneDrive and Google Drive and so many shared drives synchronized over to computers, the threat there is actually a little bit bigger than it is if you're inside of a building on a network that works off of network drives, where the files aren't synchronized and copied over. Now, it's not on here, but one of the mitigations that you can do as a policy, if this works for your organization, is to make sure that all of your users do install, or if you install it for them, install those drive agents, Google Drive, OneDrive, Dropbox, and make sure to enable the feature that only pulls over the files as they use them, instead of proactively synchronizing all of the files. And that's getting more and more common in order to save hard drive space, but that is just something to be sure of, because that can lessen the impact if data is breached. If a computer for some reason did not have BitLocker and they just pulled the hard drive out, and now we have access to some files, that it actually reduces the number of files that we get access to. And then also, so many more people are working remotely, working from home, and the threat is a breach on a home or a coffee shop or a co-working network. And so the mitigations against that type of threat is to have your people use a virtual private network. And you probably heard commercials for ExpressVPN, OpenVPN, NordVPN. I mean, there's quite a few good ones out there, but VPN is a very, very good mitigation against that particular threat, because all of the traffic is going to be encrypted before it leaves the computer. Whereas even if the traffic, going to and from a particular website is encrypted, if you're at a co-working place and their network gets breached or is actively being sniffed, the sequence of URLs that are going through is going to be part of what's captured, what is breached. And oftentimes there's data flowing through a non-encrypted channel before you actually get into an encrypted channel. You don't want to rely on every individual website for that. So you want to hide the traffic. If you're at home, if you have employees, or you and yourself are completely at home, then it's a really, really good idea to be working in a network or a VLAN, a network environment that has as few devices as possible on it. And you have to make a decision that you're going to trust your internet service provider to your home, because if they get breached, then all your traffic gets all the traffic logs get leaked. Well, that's a big issue. But if we have one network at home, or if we just use the default configuration, the default Wi-Fi router, we've seen homes with dozens of IoT devices. You got the Amazon Echo and the Google devices and smart switches, every device under the sun. And these consumer level devices are not all created equal, and most of them are just getting to market. And we're going to hear stories about the breaches of those, and then there's a little bit of code running on a little computer inside a smart switch that's constantly scanning your network and trying to find vulnerabilities. And so if you work remotely, then what you can do is you can take your own computer and you can put it behind a router, or configure the router that you have to be an isolated network with no traffic back to the regular Wi-Fi with all those smart devices on there. Okay, another threat that I want to talk about is compromised passwords. This is another one where you should assume it's happening. Um, the popular browsers are now giving you some help. Apple's giving some help. Google's and Microsoft, where there's notifications now that your password has leaked, and you can go to those browsers and the password lists. Actually, LastPass, a password manager, it also has a built-in feature that will scour certain lists that are known to share passwords, and it'll see if it can find a leaked password. But you definitely want to use LastPass or another password manager. You don't want to rely on remembering things, because if you rely on remembering it, then your password is going to be weaker than using a really long string of gobbledygook that is just cryptographically harder to brute force. And then, of course, you want to expect that your passwords are going to be breached at some point for at least some account. And so to mitigate that, use two-factor authentication. Now, it is true that when you're on an airplane, sometimes you can't get text messages, or the text message channel is different from the Wi-Fi channel in a few cases, but most of the time it works good. But also, adding in authentication apps is a good practice as well. And then with a phone, there are known attacks where if you leave your phone alone for any given period of time, somebody can grab your phone, pop your SIM card out, quickly clone it, and then put your SIM card back in. And when this happens, now somebody else can get all of your text messages. Now that's an intentionally targeted attack, but a simple mitigation that you can do for that is to take a little piece of clear tape and put it over your SIM card door. And then, of course, most people have a case on top of that. But at a minimum, it makes the attacker's job just a little bit harder. It takes it longer for them to do it, and you will know if it happened. And if you see that it happened, then you'll know to go and start resetting passwords and go and get a different SIM card and things like that.